How's it going, everyone? Today we got a story time of a Karen who demands to fly the plane, and she actually breaks her way into the cockpit. And yeah, it's a pretty crazy story. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Smash the like button right now to claim your very own free nothing. I know, pretty great deal. And with that all being said, let's just jump right into it. So this all happened when the subscriber who submitted the story was, waiting to board a plane. So he'd been waiting for a little bit of time. And if you don't know, like in the airport, it can definitely be in a lot of situations where it's like, it's not the most efficient place ever. Like, there's been so many times where there's been delays and it's taken so long. But at the end of the day, it's not any individual's fault who's working there. Like, most of the people working there are always going to try and do their best. And it's just a really large system that just overall probably doesn't have the best management. So while it's really frustrating to get a delay, it's really frustrating for all that stuff to happen. At the same time, like, that stuff just happens, bro. Anyways, though, so the subscriber was just sitting there with his mom. Subscriber's like 13 or so, and he's just, on his iPad, whatever, watching the latest Pugs Storytime video, because he's a genius 1000 IQ top G alpha male, so he watches the Pugs YouTube channel. And he notices that there's this Karen who's kind of pacing around. And this Karen does not look very happy. And, she's got, just to paint a picture of this Karen, she has the standard Karen cut. She has kind of a bit of a, I'm going to call the manager type attitude, just kind of an aura of, I'm going to call the manager. She somehow kind of had an aura like radiating off of her that made you think that she was going to call the manager on you. So yeah, sure enough, right, the Karen, though, basically right after the subscriber noticing the Karen goes up to the front desk. And so they're waiting in the area that you wait at before you board the plane. And so there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people waiting to board the plane. And the subscriber has noticed that a lot of planes are just not, it just says canceled, delayed, whatever on the screen for a lot of other people's flights. However, it doesn't say that for his flight yet, but he's also kind of just aware. His mom's also been like, hey, buddy, like, make sure your iPad doesn't run out of juice. Like, make sure you're plugged into one of the plugs, because all I'm going to say is we might be here for a little bit longer than expected. Granted, this was like a 1-hour plane ride. They were going to Florida and they lived really close, but it was like too long to drive, but they lived close to fly. So it's not as if they're like, oh, wow, we're going to have to be delayed for many, many hours for like a 14-hour long trip with 15 different stops, and this is just going to make it so bad. For the subscriber himself, it actually wasn't like too big of a deal, because like, oh, I have to wait another hour or two. Like, that's not great, but also I don't really care. I have a lot of content downloaded. But maybe for other people, it was another stop along a much longer trip. Maybe people had stuff planned, right? I get it why people are upset. However, at the end of the day, it's just really disrespectful to take it out on like basically the minimum wage workers who work there. Like, bro, they're not in charge of the plane. But I swear, Karens, bro, they believe that the minimum wage workers, or practically minimum wage workers, are in charge of the flights, and that they're secretly evil and want to keep the Karen away from her destination, bro. Like, I swear, Karens might be some of the goofiest people on planet Earth, and especially in the airport. Like, look, I think every single time I've been to an airport, I've seen at least one airport Karen. Like, Karens are pretty common in fast food restaurants and convenience stores, walking in the park. Karens are they're a very common breed. You see them around a lot. But I feel like the most common, or the place that you'll find the highest density of Karens per square foot, is the airport. The fact that I just used Karens per square foot is a form of measurement is very questionable, but anyways, right. So the subscriber notices as the Karen walks up to the person who's working the front desk, or kind of like the front desk at that place before you board the plane, and she's like, I see that we haven't been, and the subscriber's close enough to hear what the Karen says. So the Karen's basically like, I see that, the flight's still on time, but, I don't believe you. And the person in the front desk, like, ma'am, like, I will say that it's kind of looking like it will be delayed, but I haven't got anything official yet. So for the time being, we still believe that the flight's on time. Like, we still believe that the flight's on schedule for the time being. However, I will say you're probably right. Just looking at everyone else, there's a chance that we won't be on time. So the Karen does not like this. And she's like, what? Like, I am going to see my grandson in Florida. Like, do you not want me to see my grandson? And obviously the worker's like, no, ma'am, like, of course not. I want this to go as smoothly as possible. Like, trust me. I have a lot of people upset at me. I like, and she kind of just says that more or less, I'm not in control of this. I will do everything I can, but realize I don't fly the planes. And this has always been so frustrating when people, in a lot of circumstances, not even just the airport, it's frustrating when people in all walks of life start to just blame people because, look, in sometimes situations in life, it just is. It is because of a larger system that is not one person's control. Sometimes there is someone to blame. Sometimes it's someone else. Sometimes it's you, right? But there are also situations where it's just a massive organization, a massive system with many people, and there's no one individual to blame. A good example is the airport. When a plane is delayed, maybe it's because of 50 people, maybe it's because of the weather, maybe it's because of someone else in a totally different state who like got one of the other planes delayed, but rarely is it the fault of the person working the front desk relaying the orders. You know the whole phrase, don't shoot the messenger, like I'm just the messenger, bro? This is a great example of that. So yeah, sure enough, right? The subscriber listens as the Karen just keeps on berating the person behind the front desk. And yeah, it's always so frustrating when Karens, because I feel like it's a staple for Karens to go after people and blame them for something they have no control over and probably don't even want to be there, but have to be because they got to feed their family, dude. And that's always the most annoying. Like if a Karen was to actually go after someone who actually deserves it or was actually at fault, I probably still wouldn't be on the Karen side because of the way that Karens tend to go about it. But it's just so much worse when they go after someone who has literally no control. Yeah, so anyways, right, the Karen sits down, and as soon as the Karen sits down, on the screen, you see it pops up saying delayed like by 45 minutes, which is actually not that terrible of a delay. For people who probably don't fly that much, that sounds really bad. And look, 45-minute delay is not good, especially if you have to like coordinate, getting a ride service, or for some reason it just really would be not great. However, I will say that 45 minutes is not a bad delay when it comes to delays. I've seen 6-hour delays before. But the Karen was acting, as soon as she sat down and looked up and saw on the board that it said 45-minute delay, she just started freaking out, right? She was like, oh my God, my grandson has to wait even longer now. And so the Karen sat down for probably all of 6 seconds and then proceeds to stand right back up and stomp her, like kind of storm up, stomping, whatever, all the way back up to the front desk. And the subscriber watches as the person at the front desk is kind of just like, kind of just like, really, bro? The person at the front desk already knew what's up. Person at the front desk already knew that they were about to be in for quite a situation. And so the Karen gets back up there and she's like, I knew it. I knew that you were going to delay the flight, which, first of all, what do you mean I knew you were going to delay the flight? What do you mean you delayed the flight? That's just such a crazy word, like phrase. Like, do you really think that the person behind the front desk has the power to delay flights? All they do is they get information and they put it on screen and they answer questions about the information that they were given, not the situation that they created. Huge difference. Yeah, so anyways, right, the Karen is having a big old fight with the person up there, and the person at the front desk is kind of just like, I don't know what I can do here. And the Karen eventually is like, I hope that you know that you destroyed a little boy's dreams of seeing his grandmother 45 minutes earlier. Like, such an exaggeration. And also, if your grandmother be acting like that, I don't know, man. I feel like the kid is blessed by not seeing her for 45 more minutes. Maybe I'm going a little too far, but that's kind of just how I'm feeling. Anyways, though, so the subscriber's sitting there for the next 45 minutes, and the Karen doesn't go up again, because I think the Karen, like, said her piece, you know what I mean? And thankfully, the flight was not delayed more. So eventually, they get into lines. And so it really depends on the airline, like, how you get into the plane. So for some airlines, what happens is you buy a specific seat. And for other airlines, you don't buy a specific seat, but you buy like a specific spot in line. And then when you're going in there, you choose the spot. So kind of the spot in line helps determine where you'll sit. Or other airlines, you choose where you sit beforehand. I've always liked just buying like where you're, like you just buy your seat, you know exactly where it's at. Because I used to be on the other type when I was much younger. We used to go on, I forgot what it was, but an airline that did it like that. And it was always like kind of stressful because you had to get in line. You had to kind of like find your way in the point of line, and like you kind of had to push, you didn't have to push your way in, but it was a lot more stressful because you didn't know where you were sitting. You know, I always would prefer to sit with my parents, but if we were like really far back in the line, sometimes it's really questionable if I could. People were always very nice though, and would always be like, oh no, like switch with me so you can sit with your son. So I've actually made it a point that whenever like I'm on an airplane and it's like I see that, I actually did this last time I was on an airplane. I saw like a mother and daughter were not together, or mother and son were not together. So I was like, hey, like switch with me, doesn't matter. Oh yeah, good guy Connor, ooh, whatever. Look, I'm just saying, bro, like it's worth doing that. And I just respected people doing that for me. Sorry for the side tangent. Anyways, so for this airline, it's all reserved seats. But I think that Karen didn't totally know that. I mean, I think she got a seat, right? But the Karen was like, so they get into line, and the Karen was like, excuse me, I am in the first class line. And like, she pulls up her ticket, and it said like group 5. That's not the first class line, bro. Like, not only is it not the first class line, because the first class line or whatever is probably group 1 or maybe even group 2. I don't know. First of all, second of all, it doesn't even matter. Like, you have your seat. I don't know if the Karen was totally aware of that, but, you know, you have your seat, dude. And the only reason that this has ever mattered, like, now that I fly and I have, like, you choose your seat, the only thing that kind of matters is if you want the overhead bag space. If you get in really late, you might have to put it not where your seat is at, and that's kind of annoying. So I totally get that. However, though, the Karen is like bickering with people that she's in the first class line, and the subscriber's watching this, and the Karen's like goes up to the front like desk person and is like, I'm in the first class line and they're not listening to me. And she shows the person in the front desk like, oh, this is my ticket. And the person in the front desk looks at it and says, oh, ma'am, you're in group 5. Like, you're not, like, we haven't called you yet. We've called group 1 and group 2. And the Karen's like, what? No, I'm in the first class line. Like, I wanted good seats, and I requested good seats. And she's like, well, group 5's pretty good. And she's like, and obviously, eventually the Karen is like, fine, whatever. But she is big mad right now. So the Karen must have also believed that she had not only first class line privilege, but also first class seats, which she did not. And that begins some of the real problems, as you'll see. So anyways, the subscriber and his mom are in group 5 as well. So they happen to stand one person behind the Karen. So not exactly behind the Karen, but one person behind the Karen. So group 5 is called, and they all get up and they start walking in. And so they're walking into the line and they scan their stuff in. And so they walk onto the plane. So on your ticket, it says what seat you have. The subscriber sitting next to his mom, they sit, I don't know, let's just say like row 20, row 25. So the first class is like row 1 to 10. And first class seats on a lot of planes are a lot bigger, a lot cushier. Sometimes it has its own little section. But since this is a shorter flight, it's just like more cushier seats or whatever. Dude, first class seats are always just so ridiculously expensive. Like, first of all, plane tickets are pricey. They're so expensive in the first place. But first class tickets are like 5 times the price of an already super expensive plane ticket. Maybe if you got a ton of money and you're flying like 12 hours or overnight, I can kind of understand it if you super value your sleep and you have a ton of disposable income. But dude, if you're flying for 60 minutes, like just I don't know, fight it out, bro. I don't know. But yeah, so the Karen stops in front of them because there's one person between them and the Karen's like, I think one of these seats is my seat, kind of pointing at the first class seats. So a flight attendant comes over because, you know, someone might be sitting in the Karen's seat and says, oh, ma'am, can you show me your ticket? Shows the ticket. And she's like, oh, ma'am, you're actually in your seat like F row 30 or seat 30 row F. I don't know. And the Karen's like, what? So yeah, anyways, right, let's just say that the look on the Karen's face was of pure shock and horror. And what the Karen does next is absolutely insane. Real quick, comment Karen down below right now if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on Spotify, comment it in like the feedback section. And if you're on YouTube, comment Karen as many times as you can. Well, don't do it. I don't want you to get banned or anything, so comment like 5 times. And I'll try and heart as many of those comments. On Spotify, you can only comment once, so don't feel too bad. I try and read those comments too. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, I also have a Spotify. It's in the pinned comment and the description. Please go follow me on there, and if you use Spotify, I'll listen to the stories on there as well. I'm trying to grow my presence on there, and yeah, let's get back to the story as the Karen is about to go a little bit cuckoo crazy mode. So the Karen is just like in utter disbelief and shock that she is not in the first class seats, which, like, ma'am, it's a 60-minute flight. It's not that deep. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's simply not that deep. I feel like there's so many things in life where people make it so deep. Some things in life are that deep, but so many people act like so many things are so much more important, so much like life-changing. And sometimes, man, deal with it. Get over it. This too shall pass. 60-minute flight on a non-first class seat. Look, dude, you can do it. You can do it, ma'am. Like, I have faith in you. Figure it out, whatever. And also, you don't have first class seats. You very clearly did not buy first class seats. But, you know, the Karen was not hearing any of this. So she goes to the flight attendant and be like, no, I've requested first class seats. I don't understand. And she's like, ma'am, I'm sorry. Like, you ordered these seats. Like, this is what it says on the tickets. And the Karen's like, it is obviously a glitch. I demand one of these seats, pointing to, like, the first class seats. And the people sitting in the first class seats were like, what? Like, okay, like, no. Like, no. So this is where the Karen starts to go a little bit crazy. The Karen is starting to have a mental breakdown. And she's like, you will get... Looking at the flight attendant. And the subscriber, remember, is standing like one person behind her, because there's one person like that is like a buffer. But he hears the Karen be like, you will give me these seats or I will cause a problem. And the flight attendant, it starts to be like less like cordial and, oh man, like you put in the wrong seats. Like, but these are your seats. The flight attendant's like, no. Like, you will sit, like, the flight attendant says, look, like, you're going to sit down in your seats or you're not going to fly at all. And the Karen and the flight attendant have this, like, staring contest with each other. And the Karen turns around and pushes past people. So pushes past the person that was kind of the buffer in between the Karen and the subscriber, then pushes past the subscriber, pushes past the subscriber's mom, and pushes past another person until she gets to where the flight, where the cockpit is. So the two pilots are kind of just chilling there, kind of just having a good time. And that's when they noticed a Karen pushing on in. And the Karen pushes in, pushes through, and gets on, like, you know, the megaphone loudspeaker type thing? It's like, this is your captain speaking. We have reached 10,000 feet, which is cruising altitude, which means you can now, you know, use onboard Wi-Fi or use your LTE, whatever, right? So she attaches to that thing, and she starts screaming, "Give me first class seats or this plane is going nowhere," which is like a pretty crazy thing to say and probably super illegal. So pretty quickly after this, right, the subscriber, first of all, the subscriber is in absolute shock that the Karen is dumb enough to do this. Look, here's the thing. In what situation do they actually end up being like, oh, you know what? Yeah. She's right. Let's give her the first class seats. Literally no situation. Yeah, so anyways, though, let's just say that the flight attendants are not taking this so well, as they shouldn't. No one should take this well. First of all, no one should have to deal with this nonsense. It's always satisfying when these, like, workers are just, like, snap on the Karens. I always worry that they get, like, fired or something, because I'm always on their side, but sometimes I understand it's like you can't do certain things to customers or whatever. But anyways, right, so also the other thing is that this is like super illegal. Like, airplanes are very, very strict with what you can and can't do. I mean, you can't, I think it's like you can't hover near the cockpit, right? You can't even like loiter near there. But to go into the cockpit, to break into the cockpit of the plane and basically take over the cockpit and then threaten very vaguely, that this plane is not going anywhere, which is a threat until I get first class seats. That's like super illegal on a billion fronts. So the two flight attendants go in there, kind of rip the Karen out of there and like bring her out. And the Karen's like, unhand me, unhand me. I better get first class seats or I'm suing you guys. And the flight attendants are like not responding to the Karen. They're talking between each other. And one of them kind of like barks up to another one being like, hey, go call security. Like we need like we're code 4827 or something. I don't think that was the actual code, but said some kind of like code word or something. The Karen's like, what? What is that? I demand to know. So the flight attendant just looks at the Karen and almost with a little bit of a smirk, not an actual smirk, doesn't actually have like a full-on smirk, but you know what? A little bit of a smirk is like, you're being kicked off the flight, I'm calling security. And the Karen at this point went from probably thinking that, you know what, worst case scenario, I have to sit in my old seats, best case scenario, I get first class seats, to now thinking, I might not even be able to get on this plane, which she's not able to get on this plane. The Karen's like, you know, maybe I don't, you know what, I don't need the first class seats. Just let me go sit in my normal seat. And kind of thinking like, I actually kind of messed up here. Let me just get my normal seats again. It's almost like the whole like perspective thing where it's like, you know, a man, there's like a phrase, a saying, like a man wants a million things, but a sick man only wants one thing. And that one thing is to like feel good again. And the same phrase of like Karen, you know, Karen normally wants everything, first class seats, super quick flight. But when a Karen thinks she'll be kicked off a plane, the only thing she wants is her normal seats. The flight attendants are not having it. They stop responding to the Karen. And the Karen's yelling at her, you must listen, you must respond to me, let me go, I paid for these seats, all blah, 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 right, all this kind of stuff, I'm your employer, whatever, which, not true, I'm paying your salary, well, maybe, not really, though, technically, you're part of the revenue stream, but you and, a billion other people, bro, so, eventually, though, security get on the flight. So, security get on the plane, and so they go up to the Karen and they have a little talk with the people, the flight attendants, whatever. And the flight attendants give the little rundown of what happened. And the security kind of gives the Karen hey, yo, what the freak, bro? Kind of like a look of what? Really? Really? But then the Karen is yelling no, they're lying. It's fake. Let me go back to my seats. Let me go back to my seats. So then the flight attendants kind of holding the Karen back, give the Karen over to the security, and the security starts dragging the Karen off the plane. The Karen's you'll be hearing from me, I have people in powerful places. Cap, by the way. You will all lose your job. Your manager will know of this. And as the Karen's being dragged off the plane, you know when people clap when the plane lands successfully? People were clapping for the Karen being dragged off the plane. So anyways, Karen is dragged off the plane. There's probably about 30 minutes of just people of flight attendants probably writing up a report of what happened, of things just getting situated. And then eventually the captain's sorry for that disturbance, and that unexpected disturbance will be taking off shortly. People clap again, they get up in the sky, and things are good. So spoiled kids think that they can get away with anything, and in this story time, this spoiled kid goes so far in trying to get what he wants that he ends up getting himself and his mother kicked off the plane. This is an absolutely crazy story, so buckle up and let's jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Clarence. So this all happened one day when Clarence's mom were taking a trip, and they were sitting, and they had already gone through security, and they were just kind of sitting in the area. I don't know if you guys have ever gone on a plane before, but before you get on the plane, you kind of just wait around, and there's a lot of seats or whatever, and they were kind of just sitting around waiting to get on the plane. So Clarence is talking to his mom about what they're going to do, because they're going on a trip to, I don't know, Florida or something. They're going on a trip somewhere, right? And they're sitting around, they're talking about what they're going to do, and that's when this mom and her son sit down next to them. And Clarence kind of overhears the conversation. The son is complaining right now. And just to preface this son is definitely a spoiled kid. And you might be thinking, why is he a spoiled kid? Well, I mean, for the rest of this video, you'll see. But right now, the thing that he's complaining about is the present he got for his birthday. So Clarence is listening in, and the spoiled kid is Mom, how dare you get me the iPhone 13 and not the iPhone 13 Max? Yeah, so this kid was legitimately complaining that his mom didn't just get him the new phone, but did not get him the new phone, the big version, right? Dude, it's complaining Mom, you only got me 258 megabyte or gigabytes instead of 512. You're the worst. Dude, chill out. She got you the new phone. Yeah, it's not a little bit bigger, but is there really a difference, dude? Is there really a difference? And the thing is, too, the mom was like, oh, sweetie, like, I'm sorry, that's my bad. You can't be saying that. You gotta, like, tell your kid, like, no, like, you got a really good present. Chill the frick out, bro. But instead, the mom was basically enabling this. So Clarence and his mom kind of look at each other because this conversation is happening really loud. I mean, when I'm in the airport, I have my own things I want to do, like, I'll put on music or something. But if someone sits down next to me and loudly says the most outrageous thing ever, it's not my fault that they're being loud. I'm not eavesdropping. They're yelling at me, basically. So Clarence and his mom kind of look at each other like, oh boy. And yeah, so this kid like starts pouting. The kid literally, the spoiled kid, gives his mom the silent treatment as he goes on his new iPhone like 13 whatever. Oh no, it's a little bit smaller than the iPhone 13 Max. No. Yeah, like, dude, are you serious right now? But yeah, he goes on it, completely like ignoring kind of the irony of like that I will like try and I don't know, like I'm gonna pout that you didn't give me the iPhone 13 Plus, and I will do so by going on the iPhone 13 that you got me for my birthday. Like, that is a little bit ironic, but things start to really escalate when it's finally time for them to get on the plane. So anyways, they're there, and the person who sits behind the front desk is like, all right, calling everyone who's like on flight, whatever. First, like boarding group A, like you can go in. So Clarence and his mom were on boarding group B, and so the spoiled kid immediately got up and started walking, and that's when his mom's like, oh, like we're in group B, and the spoiled kid cannot believe his ears, because guys, he's the spoiled kid. He believes that the world revolves around him. Like, there cannot be a universe. It does not make sense to him that there is a freaking universe where he is not in class A. Oh good heavens, I'm in class B? I'm with the peasants? No. Yeah, so basically this kid is so upset, so utterly distraught that he is in boarding group B that, he turns to his mom, he's like, there must be a mistake. How are we in group B? We are now group B people, which, like, Clarence hears that. He's like, what do you mean by group B people, bro? Like, what is that? What are you implying? What are you implying as group B people, right? It's a little sus, my friend. You're venting a little bit right now. But anyways, so Clarence kind of looks at his mom again, and they look at each other. They kind of smile and smirk and roll their eyes. They're like, bro, like this spoiled kid is crazy right now. And Clarence always likes these situations because it's like, see, mom, I'm actually a really good kid. I'm a good kid in general, but look how bad I could have been. You're lucky right here. Look how lucky you are, which, in all fairness, spoiled kid behavior, I normally blame it 100% on the parents. Sometimes I'll laugh at the spoiled kid for how funny like they act, but at the end of the day, if we're actually looking at where blame should be placed, blame should be placed on the parents. Yeah, so anyways, eventually boarding group B is called, and the spoiled kid reluctantly is not in group A. Oh no! Yeah, so they all go up, and so just kind of like the way that the line formed itself, the spoiled kid and his mom were directly in front of where Clarence's mom were in line. So they're walking in, they scan their ticket, and then they start walking on the little tunnel thing that connects you to the plane. So they're walking in there, and they overhear the spoiled kid just moaning and just, don't take that out of context. I was going to say B-wording and moaning because that's a very common expression to be of like complaining, but I decided not to say the first thing because I'm not trying to like swear too much in the channel. So I literally just ended up saying moaning. No, stop. Stop it. Stop being weird. Okay, he was complaining and all that kind of stuff the entire way down as they're standing there, as they're walking into the plane, complaining about everything. It's too cold. My phone's at low charge. Like, dude, first of all, why are you complaining about your phone being at a low charge when that is literally in your control? Like, it is 100% your job to decide when am I going to charge my phone. Like, there were outlets in the airplane, bro, or at the airport where they were sitting. But no, like, you needed to play Subway Surfers or something, dude. I don't even know. He was complaining about literally everything. So yeah, eventually they get on the plane. And this is where the spoiled kid starts to get so bad. And remember, by the end of the story, guys, the spoiled kid will actually be thrown off the plane. Like, he will actually get him and his mom kicked off the plane which is absolutely hilarious. But listen to how it starts. So they get on there, and if you guys have never been on a plane before, so the plane is divided up into first class seats, which are big, plush. I've never been on one, but they look pretty cool. Big, plush. You got so much leg room. In some cases, you got your own little kind of corridor or whatever. If it's a big enough plane, you might even be able to recline all the way and take a little nap, right? And then all the other seats are like economy, and they are so cramped. Like at the end of the day, I can't really complain because, I mean, I know that the airlines aren't making like any money on like normal tickets. They're only making money on like the first class tickets. But at the end of the day, if I'm going like 7 hours, like, and I'm literally like hunched over, like that is not a fun experience. So the spoiled kid, as he was walking on, goes to turn. He turns to his mom. He says, "Oh, which of these seats are we in?" And his mom looks at him and then looks straight ahead to imply that their seats are down that way. And the look on the spoiled kid's face is priceless. He is completely aghast that, oh my God, we're in the peasant seats? No! Yeah, so the spoiled kid does not take it well that he is not in the first class seats because he believes that he is a first class citizen and he deserves all the first class seats possible. Of course, right, bro? Of course. So yeah, the spoiled kid is not happy at all. He is big angry. He is big mad. And he starts arguing with his mom. He's like, "Can we just upgrade right now? Can we just get the good seats? I don't want to be in those seats, Mom." It was like a 2-hour flight, by the way, which is really not that bad. That's definitely a shorter flight. And like, look, I get it. Those are not the most comfortable seats. But can you not get over 2 hours? And also, yes, it is too late to upgrade. You're literally on the plane, dude. Huh? Like, what do you expect? So yeah, sure enough, they're on the plane, and he wants to upgrade the seats. So here's the other thing. Clarence and his mom are stuck behind them because if you guys haven't been on a plane, it is a very thin aisle. It's a one person at a time aisle type deal. So if someone stops and they're talking or complaining about not having first class seats, it's not as if you can just simply walk around them. You literally need to wait until they move or they sit down or they move forward for you to move forward. So there was kind of like a question of like, what's the big holdup? And the spoiled kid's mom is trying to like get him to keep walking, right? And she's like, "Look, honey, we're not in the first class seats, but we're pretty close to the front. Like we're going to get off the plane sooner than most people." To try and just tell him that no, they might not be first class seats, but they are still better than other peasant seats. And like the spoiled kid in his head is like, "I don't want to be top of the peasants, right? I want to be in with the kings right now. And I know that those seats are not the king seats, dude." So yeah, sure enough, the spoiled kid he does something absolutely insane. You guys are not going to believe it. So basically, the spoiled kid tries to take one of the seats by force. And the thing is, at this point, basically all the first class seats had filled up. So the spoiled kid goes up to some random guys like, "Sir, I think you are sitting in my seat," and starts to climb over him to get into his seat forcefully. It is a nightmare. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment "seat" down below. My secret words are no longer that easy to comment or to guess. So yeah, comment "seat" if you made it this far into the video. If you want to listen on Spotify, I have an account. It's in the pinned comment down below. All these stories are re-uploaded on there. And if you're listening on Spotify, please rate the podcast 5 stars. I would love it. I'd love to get on a chart one day because that'd be super sick. And finally, if you're listening on YouTube, if you want to support the channel, the best way you can do so is to binge watch the videos. That means watch a bunch of videos in one sitting. And please let me know in the comment section down below, how many of my videos have you watched this week, today? And also, please let me know what you're doing while watching my videos. Are you playing a video game? Are you drawing something? Are you cleaning your room? Are you doing homework? I am actually super curious. It's really interesting research for me. And let's get back to it because the spoiled kid is mad crazy, bro. Yeah, so sure enough, the spoiled kid goes up to some random guy, some random business guy, right? He's like, "Excuse me, sir, you are actually in my seat." And if you guys haven't been on an airplane before, it's actually quite common to get in the wrong seats. Like I flew back home and I was in the wrong seat and I just didn't even know. And someone like politely asked, like, "Oh, you're in my seat." I'm like, "Oh, my fault, bro. Like I got you." And I got up. It's something that happens all the time. I will say in first class seats, since there's so few seats, it's less likely to happen, I would believe. Maybe it happens just as often. I don't know. I don't sit in those seats. But so the guy is like, "Oh, okay." He checks his phone. And as he's checking his phone, the spoiled kid starts climbing over another person to go sit in the guy's seat. So at this point, the business guy takes out his phone. He's like, no, this is the right seat. And when he looks up, because remember, he's been looking on his phone for the last, 30 seconds to go find his seat. When he looks up, the spoiled kid is literally climbing over, probably like his wife or whoever's sitting next to him. And he's like, sir, excuse me. In all fairness, the spoiled kid is like 14, so it's not like some grown freaking man is climbing all over them, which wouldn't be much, which just because he's 14 doesn't excuse it. But at this point, one of the flight attendants is trying to figure out what's the whole holdup. So he walks down. He's like, sir, can you please not climb over all the other people? And the spoiled kid's like, but I want the first class seat. He's sitting in the seat that is rightfully mine. And, the flight attendant's like, looks at the guy, and the guy's like, this is my seat, and shows proof. He's like, that's not your seat, sir. Like, please don't climb on the guest. And the spoiled kid's like, it might not be my seat on paper, but it is rightfully mine. So at this point, Clarence and his mom look at each other and just kind of give each other a stare of like a bro. Like, what is going on right now? This may be the goofiest thing I've ever seen, dude. Because it kind of was. I'm not going to lie. So sure enough, right, Clarence and his mom are kind of like getting a little antsy because they look behind them and they see all these people waiting and kind of trying to look ahead to see like what's the holdup right now. And they probably think it was because of Clarence and his mom. And Clarence and his mom are trying to convey that, no, this is not our fault. We're sorry too. We don't want to be here as well, bro. Like, trust me. We're trying to go to where we want to go to. We're trying to sit down as well. So yeah, eventually the flight attendant is able to convince the spoiled kid to get up. And the spoiled kid eventually gets up. And the spoiled kid and his mom start walking to their seat. And the spoiled kid's mom is getting angrier and angrier. Like, if you guys remember in the beginning, like probably 20 minutes ago, at least in the story-wise, not in the video-wise, but 20 minutes ago when he was complaining about not having the iPhone Pro Max Plus 27, I don't even know, right? She's like, oh, I'm sorry, sweetie, I didn't hear that part, like when I was getting her present. So she was like in a good mood in the beginning, because like, dude, she was probably excited to go to Florida, have a nice vacation or whatever. But now her son, the spoiled kid, is starting to cause quite a scene. Yeah, in all fairness, I'd be pretty upset as well, so I get it. So they sit down in their seats. And funny enough, the spoiled kid and his mom sit kind of close to Clarence and his mom. So Clarence in his head is like, spoiled kid, you got to sit with us, the peasants now. Ha ha ha, whatever, right? And you might be thinking, okay, Connor, isn't the spoiled kid supposed to get kicked off the plane? And my response is, do you think we're done yet? Do you think the spoiled kid is done being super spoiled and ridiculous? No. The spoiled kid has one last spoiled trick up his sleeve. So the spoiled kid is about to do something absolutely insane, and only something that would logically make sense to a spoiled kid himself. So the spoiled kid is so angry. He is so mad. He is just so upset with everything. So he decides that he's going to take the plane into his own hands. So people are still walking in, and the spoiled kid gets up, and his mom is like, where are you going? He says, I'll be right back, which is very like, bro, what? So he gets up, and he starts walking up to the cockpit. And, Clarence looks out and is thinking to himself, why is this kid walking up to the cockpit? Like, it's like, yeah, there's a bathroom up there, but the bathroom behind us is closer because, there's a plain bathroom in the front and the back. So you could have gone either way. It's like, did he not know about the bathroom behind us? Was he going to the bathroom in front of us? And sure enough, he walks up and he walks past the bathroom. And for some reason, the pilot cockpit door is open. Well, because, they're loading up, so it doesn't really matter. And the one flight attendant was dealing with someone else. So they didn't notice the spoiled kid push past them all. And the spoiled kid runs into the flight cockpit, right? The two pilots aren't even really paying attention. And the spoiled kid grabs the microphone. And apparently there's a button that makes it really easy to turn on the microphone. So I don't know if you guys have been on a plane before, but if you have been, you would know that it's eventually the pilot goes on the microphone. It's like, hey guys, we're going to X location. It's going to take us 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's going to be a little bit of bumps in the air. It's make sure to pay attention to the instructional safety video in front of you. But this time, Clarence's mom are sitting there watching this whole thing go down. And that's when they hear on the intercom, give me up, wait, what was it? It was, give me a first class seat immediately, or I will not let this plane go anywhere. This little bro actually decided to go into the cockpit and threaten them. I don't know what he was actually threatening, right? If he didn't get a first class seat, right? He's like, give me a first class seat, or I'm going to make sure this plane stays on the ground. And I don't think dude realized how serious of like a crime he was actually committing right now, or just like how serious of an offense he was doing. In his head, he probably thought, okay, worst case scenario, someone comes up to me and is like, oh, you're being big bad. You got to go sit back in your seat. I don't think it even crossed the spoiled kid's mind that for a second that he could be kicked off this plane. So he just keeps yelling, like, give me a first class seat or I'm not. And everyone's like on the plane's like, what's going on? It's like this little squeaky kid is yelling at us. Like, where's this coming from? What's going on? And that's when like the pilots who are literally sitting there are just so shocked. They're just so stunned that they let this happen for a second. Because I don't know about you, but if I'm piloting a plane, the last thing I expect is a spoiled kid to barge through and start speaking on the intercom system, demanding that he get a first class seat or else everyone was gonna, we weren't going anywhere. It's so funny too, because this is totally a spoiled kid mentality of, if I can't have it, if I can't have what I want, then no one can have any fun. But it's funny because the spoiled kid applied what he learned in the classroom of, if I can't, they're playing tag outside, someone tags them this game is stupid, and then makes everyone leave or makes the game end, or if he loses basketball, he just kicks the ball into the woods or whatever. He took the mentality if I don't get what I want, no one's allowed to have fun. He took that into the real world. So he's like, if I don't get a first class seat, then this plane is going nowhere. Yeah, so here's the thing, though. In the real world, you have real-world consequences. And one of the pilots rips the thing out of his hand. It's like, son, do you know what you just did? And all the flight attendants go rushing to the cockpit, right? So they all, grab onto him. He's like, let me go. Just give me a first-class seat and I'll be easy. And, so the spoiled kid's mom gets up and is like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. My son. And they're like, ma'am, I hate to say this to you, but, you and your son are not allowed on this plane anymore. You need to get off. And she's like, what do you mean we need to get off? And they're like, you need to get off the plane, right now. Open up the overhead compartment, grab your stuff, and you need to get off this plane. And, the mom starts to, Karen out a little bit. And she's like, I paid money to go on this ticket. And just because my son caused a little bit of an issue doesn't mean we should be kicked off. And they're like, ma'am, your son threatened to ground the plane if he didn't get a first-class seat. That is way beyond, that is definitely bounds. That is definitely, grounds, not bounds. That's definitely ground for us to kick you guys off. So, yeah, sure enough, kicking and screaming, the Karen and the spoiled kid were escorted off the plane.